Gamers' wallets are often crying. Yes, Steam sales exist, they're good, but they certainly don't solve the game price crisis. But fear not, some of the best things in life are free. And there's some pretty great free games that have already come out or are coming out this year. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the new free games of 2025. Starting with number 15, it's Soulframe. The highly anticipated follow-up to Warframe is an interesting case because you got a long way to go before the big 1.0 release, but for a lot of people, the game's playable because you can get into the test server, and it's not actually all that hard to get a key. They give them out every week, so if you do end up signing up, you probably will get an invite eventually. So it's a sort of game that's new and available and also not, so it does have a long way to go, though. In its current form, it's called Soulframe Preludes, and it's kind of a fancy way to say that it's pre-alpha. Still, what we have here has a lot of potential. It's a more slow-paced and deliberate version of Warframe, free of the weight of a decade of updates. A blank slate and a perfect jumping-on point, either now or in a few years when the actual finished product comes out. Either way, apparently, the devs want to avoid resetting progress, so whatever you do manage to do in the prelude will carry over to the main game, but it's expected a lot about Soulframe is probably going to change pretty drastically between now and whenever the final release is, so jumping in now might be difficult for certain reasons that I have listed so far. It does look really promising, though, and the people who have played it seem really positive and excited about how it's going to expand and evolve in the future. So something you should be also excited about how it's going to expand and evolve in the future is GameRanks. I can't tell you everything about what we're cooking up, but we've got some pretty cool stuff. All I can say is in the meantime, tons of you aren't subscribed, like just absolute tons. And it's not just us, it's site-wide across all of YouTube. But obviously, like, the thing we care about is if you're subscribed to us, not like all the other channels. And I know it's annoying, but I gotta ask, so please do it. It helps us a lot, and hopefully it helps you find stuff you want. Big thanks, let's get back to it. And number 14 is Neverness to Everness. The logline is just, call this thing Anime Grand Theft Auto, but it's actually kind of a more crazy, ambitious combination of GTA, Persona, and of course, because it's a free-to-play RPG, a big heaping helping of gacha mechanics. It's also not out yet. Speculation is that it'll release sometime by the end of 2025 or early 2026, as it's been in closed beta for a while now, and people have had the opportunity to play it. The game it looks stunning. And when I say that, I know there's going to be some people that think, oh, so the titties are big? And yes, but no, that's not what I'm talking about. It's got open world driving, action game style combat, Persona-like bosses, alternate reality shenanigans, and honestly, like, this city at sunset just reminds me so much of the original Jet Set Radio. Gotta be clear about this, it's not competing with GTA 6, not even in the same ballpark. Nothing about these games really looks the same. It's got kind of the weightlessness and the driving of those online-only RPGs, or even like a weird crazy taxi-like quality to it even. Much more arcadey and bouncy. Again, not in a titty way. This is anime, we have to specify. But it's a lot more ambitious than a lot of free-to-play RPGs you see, and it doesn't look necessarily like it's going to come out this year. I'm hoping so, but also I'm not expecting. It's not like it can't, so that's why it's on here, but we'll see. Hopefully. At number 13 is ENA Dream Barbecue. Finally, a real, actual game that's already come out in the year and is actually free, totally free, no free-to-play mechanics or microtransactions. It's got a supporter version you can pay a little extra to help the dev out, but that's it. And while this isn't really so much of a game, kind of an animation showcase, it is one hell of an impressive showcase. The gameplay kind of boils down to walking around surreal environments and then talking to the strangest NPCs you've ever seen. They talk, but I don't know that they necessarily make sense. I haven't really encountered any that make sense. It's not even an Alice in Wonderland sort of character type thing where that person grounds things. Your character is just as bizarre and inexplicable as everything else. Depending on what you're looking for in a game, it might be a little too much to handle, but if you're here for it, this is an intriguingly weird game and one of the most so to come out in a while. And it's free, like completely ass-free, and that makes it even more impressive. This is considered to be Chapter 1 and is basically a demo for the rest of the game, but it is a full experience with a ton of incredible animation work. It's not the most accessible or normal game out there, but for the price of free, it's worth it just for the stunning art design. And number 12 is Where Winds Meet. This upcoming Wuxie-inspired open-world RPG may be the most ambitious and impressive on the list so far. You wouldn't think it's a free-to-play game looking at it. It looks like a Chinese-based Assassin's Creed with superpowers, but seriously, this is a free-to-play game that even has a firm release date, November 14th. It's basically a surefire thing. Whether it'll actually live up to the expectations set by the mind-blowing trailers, that's another story in terms of, like, monetization. There have been people that have played it on Chinese servers where the game's been out for a few months already, and they say it's mostly the same usual pay-to-win stuff you'd expect from a free game. Not quite as massive as trailers make it sound. One trailer boasts the game has 20 regions to explore. The game in China currently has 5, and worldwide will launch with only 2 or 3, so it's not quite 20, but I mean, maybe it's probably eventually going to be, I don't know. Who cares? It's very interesting. Like, it's, for all intents and purposes, delivering on its promise, according to those who have been playing it. It's highly anticipated, and the impressions so far are solid, so it's a game to look out for when it launches in November. And number 11 is ShatterRush, another game that's only currently in pre-alpha, but anybody can jump on Steam right now and give it a whirl. The Battlefield series got BattleBit, and ShatterRush looks like that, but for Titanfall, with an extra bit of the finals thrown in for good measure. Anybody who watches this channel knows I don't throw that around lightly either. There's some pretty satisfying flow movement, there's some mechs, destructible environments, and on top of it all, while the whole thing is pretty early and the graphics are relatively crude, the core idea is just fantastic. Like, it's nice to see someone trying to keep Titanfall's multiplayer alive in some way, because EA isn't gonna anytime soon. It's still very early, but everything we've seen of it is just very promising. At number 10 is Mecha BREAK, a free-to-play mech game. It came out back on July 1st, and it doesn't have the best reviews on Steam, mostly for a good reason. The menus, they're a mess. The matchmaking isn't great. The developers aren't very good at communication. There's issues. But here's the thing. The core mech-based action is a lot of fun. There's just a lot of junk that gets in the way. When you're actually in the game, it is super solid. It is super fun. But the problem is everything around it kind of drags the whole thing down. I think that it's at least worth a look if you like the fast-paced robot action and stuff like Armored Core or Zone of Enders. But just, like, do everything you can to ignore the menus. Just get into the game, because it's quite enjoyable if you can do that. And maybe at some point these people are going to figure out how to fix that stuff. At number 9, it's Umamusume Pretty Derby. Yep, try to say that 5 times fast. I mean, you don't even have to put the pretty derby part. Just try to say Umamusume. Try to say that a bunch of times fast. So anyway, this I had to put this somewhere. It was the meme game of the summer, and a lot of people actually really like it. It came out over here in 2025, so it's getting a look, even if the whole thing is, I mean, just basically bizarre. It's a horse racing game, but swap out horses with anime girls. Yep, so that's what this is. There's a reason why streamers got so obsessed with it for a while there. It's kind of off-putting, actually, in a certain way, if you think about it too hard. But there's also a reason why those same streamers actually stuck with the game, because it can be legitimately engaging. Not all the positive reviews on Steam are just memes. I mean, it's mostly memes, but there are unironic positive reviews in there too. It's a gacha game with the usual money-grubbing monetization that it entails, but if you're a big-time free-to-play gamer, you already know how that sort of crap works. You're already making multiple burner accounts to make sure you get the starting pull you want, reading all the optimizing strategies to spend less on the best pulls. It's an engaging management sim. And if it was just about regular old horses, it'd probably be a lot more normal, but it also probably wouldn't be nearly as popular because it's weird. It's very weird. So I guess they made the right call. At number 8 is Ballad of Antara, another Chinese single-player Souls-like free-to-play that is, once again, very ambitious for a free-to-play game. It's not out yet, but it is expected to launch still sometime in 2025. If it does happen, I can't say for sure, but that's what the devs are saying. Yet again, we're getting a game where everything is... I mean, it looks like a standard single-player game, but it's actually free-to-play with monetization and online elements that kind of damper the excitement if you're a more traditional gamer, but as far as free-to-play games go, it looks impressive. All the pre-release gameplay points to it being pretty traditional in terms of a Souls-like, so we really can't help but wonder what the free-to-play stuff is. Apparently, there's going to be multiple playable characters, so it's possible that has some kind of gacha system built in. Nothing's confirmed yet, and It's just speculation on our part. One interesting gimmick is there's 2 versions of the world, one more realistic and one more fantastical. There will also be co-op with up to 4 players exploring the world at once. They plan to continue supporting the game after launch with new locations, characters, features, so basically a free-to-play game. The whole thing looks interesting and could potentially be a lot of fun. Hopefully it actually manages to come out this year. At number 7 is cheese rolling. Enough of the allegedly free games, and back to what a free game really should be. Some dumb nonsense designed by a guy for fun. That's cheese rolling, a goofy physics-based racing game about rolling cheese down a steep hill. Go rolling with 8 players online or play offline, and that's the game. It's a game about rolling down a hill. You're cheese. It's very silly. It's actually inspired by a real English tradition, so you're not just playing a game, you're learning about a cultural thing, I guess. I don't really know. Even with something as goofy as this, there's some microtransactions to buy, as harmless as they are. It's one of those games where the premise is what sells it. The name is Cheese Rolling. It's free, so try it out. It's actually pretty fun. At number 6 is 2XKO. The Riot Games League of Legends fighting game spinoff entered closed beta September 9th, and there's still speculation it's going to come this year. I think at this point the chances are a little unlikely, but there is a chance, so it's on the list because there's a lot of promise, actually. A fighting game coming from a non-fighting game studio would normally give me some pause, but the gameplay we've seen looks really legit. It's a 2v2 fighting game that seems to generally stick to the standards of the genre, not trying to reinvent the wheel, like you got a standard light medium, standard heavy, special moves, button combinations, blah blah. You get it, it's a fighting game. There's some simplifying elements, like it sounds like executing supers is pretty basic, but otherwise it's a standard game using characters from League of Legends. Now what's particularly interesting here is that the actual free-to-play fighting game seems just legit. There's not a lot of these in terms of the genre at all. Hopefully it ends up being good first and a success second. The characters look very cool, mechanically sounds good, a lot of real potential here. And number 5 is Supervive, a top-down action game. It's part MOBA, part Battle Royale, and it's an all-around really interesting and fresh take on multiplayer action. It's pretty complex. There's a lot to learn because all the characters and build possibilities there's a lot of them. But the core is a solid game. It's let down a little bit by certain elements of its design, like locking away some major gameplay elements behind progression, like you have to open loot boxes to customize your builds, for example, but the game is otherwise very polished and a lot of fun to play. It's also it's unbalanced, but that's another thing that comes from playing a game that doesn't quite fit into any one genre. Not exactly a MOBA, but it borrows some of those mechanics. Not exactly a battle royale either, but with the ways it lets you sometimes drastically alter how your build works, it's gonna be tough to balance it. There's also the usual issues of an early game, like people complaining about lack of players. It's a game that may not be alive in a year or two. Who really knows? Hopefully it does manage to stick around because it's something different in a good way. And number 4 is the 7 Deadly Sins Origin. It's basically Genshin Impact with an actual anime license. Even knowing what to expect, though, it looks pretty promising. And the developers are claiming it's coming this year, so even though it's yet another game on the list that's not actually out yet, at least it seems possible. The game is going to have all this stuff we've come to expect from these quasi-MMO free games. Huge world, action RPG combat, dungeons, fishing, heavy dose of exploration, and gacha stuff. At least that's what I can assume, because the marketing is pretty light-lipped about what the monetization's going to look like. It's coming from Netmarble, though. They came from the minds behind the recent Game of Thrones King's Road, so the monetization's probably going to be pretty bad. But the game does look better, like in pretty much every way. The action looks more fun, the world looks more interesting. Could be a fun game to check out whenever it ends up launching. After 3 is Fragpunk. This 5 vs 5 hero shooter is basically just a slightly modified version of Valorant, but it's got some interesting elements that manage to mix things up. It's got a prop hunt mode, for instance. That's something people still play, right? So let's be honest. Fragpunk is a game that's already kind of on its last legs, even though it only launched a few months ago, back in March. That's the way these kinds of games go. It's either catch on or fade away. The biggest complaints about this one is just the lack of players, and that it is Valorant in a lot of respects. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, though. Some people like it more than Valorant. The actual shooting mechanics are a lot of fun. The levels are well designed. It's not a bad game at all, just kind of derivative. And number 2 is Lunacid, Tears of the Moon, a fascinating little thing, a prequel to King's Field and Shadow Tower inspired indie game Lunacid. If you don't know, King's Field is kind of the proto Dark Souls that From made back in PlayStation 1. It's a first-person dungeon crawler. It's crude, but a whole lot of ideas and influences went into them that ended up being what culminated in Demons and Dark Souls. There's been a renewed interest in them in the 2010s and beyond. That's why we've been getting these kinds of weird little free King's Field-likes, I guess is the way to put it. They're more than just inspired by it. This one in particular was made with the Sword of Moonlight, the King's Field Game Maker tool, originally released in Japan back in 2000. This game is made entirely using that old creation kit, and it does show. It's as ugly and clunky as the old games, but because of that, it's also the most accurate modern-day King's Field experience. That doesn't necessarily make it the most satisfying game out there. It's a strange little artifact and curiosity that's absolutely worth checking out. You can really see the limitations of the old engine everywhere here, though. And I mean, just running this thing in widescreen shows how the environment just disappears anywhere too far to the left or right, but it's still an impressive achievement that they were able to get it running at all. And at number 1, I have Mr. Rabbit Magic Show. Last, but of course not least, is a free little addition to the Rusty Lake universe, an oddball little collection of puzzles with a creepy, uncanny edge to them. If you don't remember, the Rusty Lake games are basically Newgrounds games, but good. And the Mr. Rabbit Magic Show is pretty much the same thing, only it was somehow released in 2025. These games feel like such a throwback. It's nice to see someone keeping the spirit of the early internet alive by releasing these sort of things for free. If you like puzzles or creepy stuff in general, then check this game out. It's not long, but it is great. I do have some bonus games for you. The first is Sonic Rumble. Sonic actually has a pretty good track record for free games. This one looks like it'll continue it. It's Sonic combined with Fall Guys. 32 players race to complete an obstacle course. There's only one winner possible. It's a solid idea, and while it doesn't have the speed usually associated with Sonic, the level design looks really fun for one of these kinds of obstacle course games. Apparently, it's still supposed to launch this year, so look out for that. Next is Arena Breakout Infinite, an extraction shooter that only came out in 2025. We're talking about Steam, but it's still worth a mention because it's actually one of the better games of the genre. The shooting isn't exactly realistic, and it doesn't feel as powerful as it could be, given how realistic the game otherwise looks, but it's well designed. It's got a good amount of content, basically Tarkov, but a little less brutal on new players. Finally, Wuthering Waves is technically this year. It came on PlayStation back in January, Steam in April, so this year is the first experience a lot of people are having. It's a lot like Genshin Impact, but for a lot of people it's superior. It's got more fun game mechanics, better quality of life features. It's pretty blatantly borrowing a lot of ideas from its inspirations, and a lack of creative new areas kind of hurts this game a little bit, but it's generally considered to be a solid game that fixes a lot of people's problems with how Genshin Impact plays. It's still lousy with microtransactions and gacha elements, but that's a given for the genre. If you're able to look past all that, it's a really good action RPG, open world, free to play, probably one of the best ones out there. It's so good that some people might actually like it, even if they aren't already knee-deep in free to play muck, and that's about as high praise as you can give to one of these types of games. That's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconHero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.